She is a Nikon Ambassador. She's one of the hottest portrait photographers that takes over the streets of Chicago. I know this because I work with her. The police stop, everybody stops in the middle of the road. Let me introduce to you, balancing this act of making light work for you, Audrey Woulard.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. So you guys are at the best booth. Let everybody know it. Let's come on, scream, say yes. We having a good time? Good. Thank you so much, Nikon, for having me here. It is always a pleasure. For you guys that are watching, I hope you guys are going to be inspired today, tomorrow. Keep tuning in because we all have fabulous programs. So I want to talk to you guys about the balancing act. And I call it the balancing act because I tend to balance natural light and strobes. And depending on what my mood is like, determines on what I want that image to look like. So I want to kind of walk you through my thought process, going from the beginning of the day and then going towards the end of the day, and then just kind of letting you know what my process is like. So what do I exactly mean by that balancing act? Now, sometimes people think that we want to create, just like flat light, or something that you don't necessarily want people to know that you use flash. I'm not necessarily that way. So if you look at this image here, this pretty much is my thought process of something that's a little bit more balanced, but I actually use strobes here. And sometimes you can't really tell. It makes people just wonder where that's, the light source is from. So taking a modifier and angle it in a way where I can kind of eliminate some of the shadows. But some of the things that I always tell photographers, embrace the shadows, because that would actually create some drama. Now here's a quote that I live by, and I will tell everybody to put this in your arsenal, and it's a quote by Charles Mingus. It says, anyone can make the simple complicated. Creativity is making the complicated simple. Simple. So this is the way I interpret that quote. Have you guys been, for those of you who have been in some of the classes earlier, today you'll have other people say you have to have 3, 4 lights, or you have to have the biggest lens in order to look professional. Well, I tend to look at it the opposite. If I can make something look very creative in the most simplest way possible, then I feel like I'm, kind of tapping into the artist that I hope that I want to be. And I want that to be a quote that you all take with you, that you don't have to have just everything, to be the biggest and the best in order to create beautiful imagery. So these are some of the images that I create with just simple techniques. This is actually just using a continuous light. So I'm not using a strobe here at all. And I kind of did something a bit more, split lit, if you will. But the goal here was for me to actually capture what I saw with my eyes. I didn't want anything to go too dark. And I'm going to show you a more pulled back version of this image, because when I see the sky, you guys look like the blue hour, that's like my favorite time of the day. I don't want that sky or everything to go so dark. And this is actually one of the very few images that I actually shot at nighttime, and that's only because I lost my time of day. Otherwise, I would not have been out this late, but this is one of the images that I actually captured, at night. This image here, this was around, I want to say like at 6 o'clock, but it was like evening, the light was going down. But the reason that I like this picture is because where she was sitting was actually what I wanted to, was going for. I didn't want to overpower that rim light that was in her hair. She's actually just sitting on a curb in front of like a hotel. It was the grungiest looking spot that I ever saw. But I did not want to eliminate the light that is in front and the light that is behind her. When we start bringing in that created light, it's very, very easy to overpower the light that is surrounding your subject. But I want to make sure that I'm choosing my settings, the power of my light, so that I can still capture what I see behind my subject. Because as photographers, we often look so much at our subject that we forget what that light looks like behind them. Now, believe it or not, this is captured in full sun. This one I used the Z7 II, and I used an 85mm 1.8. And this gave me the depth that I wanted, looking at that light, you see how it's falling like on the trees? Those are all the things that I'm looking for. It's very, very easy to get caught at looking at how beautiful our subject is, right? Instead of looking at those leading lines that's leading to her, looking at how those trees balance her in the frame. Although she's beautiful, what actually, in my opinion, makes that image is everything that's surrounding her that brings that eye towards the subject. And those are all the things that I really want you guys, to look at. So, how do I make the light work for me? Well, the first thing that I like to do is figure out what I want to create. Do I want to create something that is going to be a little bit more moody? Do I want something that's nice and bright? What do I want to create? So I'm going to show you guys this, and this was actually captured here in Vegas at this hotel, not in the beautiful desert that everybody likes to go to. I was in the back of the hotel where I was like, I don't want anybody to see what I'm doing, and let me just kind of show you what this looks like. And this will give you what the position of my light was. So looking at what I want to create, envisioning the image before I create it, I wanted to get more directional light. Now, here's the beauty of choosing shots like this, or choosing locations. Guess what? No photographer's going to copy me, right? You often think about when photographers are asking about your locations, no one's going to shoot here, but this is my image. So looking at what I wanted, being the foliage that's located to the side of her, taking that light, I knew I wanted to drop it, drop the exposure a little darker, because you guys saw on that other side, it didn't look pretty. So if I can darken that down, I'm using my 85mm 1.4 lens. I actually shot this with a Z9. I can darken my exposure on the background and just make her pop. And even when a car is leaving the parking lot, those little bitty teeny tiny pieces of bokeh, it actually looks nice. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of making that light work for you. If I captured this with just ambient lighting, I would not be able to kind of balance that exposure between what I saw with my eyes and what I saw with my mind. So here's another one, and this is actually a fun one. Before I play it, I want you guys to take a look, well, I'm playing it now. I want you guys to take a look at that light that's behind her, okay? I saw kind of like that blue, light that's kind of illuminated behind her. I'm using my Z8 here, my 85mm 1.2 Z lens, but I really like the light behind her, and I didn't care so much about anything else. And then further, I was at a different conference, and there were all sorts of photographers wondering why was I there, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew exactly what I was going for. The actual magic of the shot, beautiful girl, right? But I was looking at that light behind her. And that's what I'm talking about, being very, very aware of everything that's surrounding your subjects so that you can make them pop, look exactly how you want them to look. So even here, I'm using my Z9 here, 85mm 1.4 lens. Now, although I'm shooting at an f1.6, I dropped my shutter down a little bit lower because we had the, people crossing the street. I captured this in San Diego right before, you guys remember Hurricane, Hillary? That was the day of Hurricane Hillary. So I really wanted to get the atmosphere of what the sky was looking like. I wanted it to look like that, kind of dark, a storm is coming. But that's kind of how I captured that here. Now, I put this slide in here because everything right now I'm showing you is strobes. But having that same thought process, this was captured with just ambient lighting. And I captured this with a DSLR, my Nikon D810, but still keeping that same thought process. You like the DSLR here? But I still use my 85mm 1.4 lens. But what I looked for here, it was actually a storm that passed. So I used the sky that had that dark, kind of look, had her right there, and I was able to capture her right in that break of the sky, which is giving you that light that's illuminating right on her. So, how many people heard you should not photograph in full sun? Have you heard that? No full sun, right? Well, guess what? I do the exact opposite. And by doing the exact opposite of a lot of things, it definitely makes you stand out. So, show you some things that I captured in full sun. I wanted to start with this. Whoa. I wanted to start with this because This was actually ambient lighting, okay? And one thing I like to do, just to give you guys the actual like setup, I'm always have my sun behind my subjects. The key, nothing behind you. You need to have kind of infinite ambient lighting floating behind you so that you have the light that can illuminate onto your subject's faces. That's number one. Now, number two, having something that can act as a natural reflector. So do you see them running on the sidewalk? The sun's beaming down on them. That kicks right back up to the face. That will illuminate the face. Those are two things in my mental kit that I actually look for to make sure that their faces are illuminated. That's the natural light way. Now, if I wanted to incorporate strobes, this one here is still natural light. Same thought process, sun behind the subject, nothing behind her, because as you guys can see, I'm on like a street. But I'm gonna show you the flash version. Now you see how it has, it's like it's a little crisper, it's a little bit more, I guess, fine-tuned. You've got a little bit more contrast on there. So this is like why I wanted to show you guys this, that if you are actually, deciding if you want to bring in created light or if you do not, I wanted you guys to really see that difference. But same thing here. Now, when I say high noon, I mean high noon. So sometimes people say, well, where's the shadow? So you can determine how high noon it is. So you see the shadow is directly in front of her, and that shows you that sun is at its highest point. But as long as it is behind the subject, nothing behind you, regardless if you use flash or not, you will illuminate the face. So again, same thought process, but you've got that nice blue sky. Here I'm using my Nikon Z8, and I use my 85mm 1.2. And a lot of people wonder, do I photograph at 1.2 or do I stop up when I'm photographing in full sun? Sometimes I do photograph at 1.2, but my magic, I guess, little aperture is 1.6. So I stay kind of right around in that area. If I'm using a 1.2 lens, I will sometimes go down to 1.4, but I'm not always like using the lens at its widest aperture. So again, eyes wide open. So sometimes you guys think that if you're in that full sun, that they're squinting, and sometimes that can happen. But usually it's two things. A, somebody has blue eyes. So anybody over here has blue eyes, or whoever's watching, you guys know that they can be a little bit more sensitive. Or you don't have that sun in the correct position, okay? So again, same thing, giving you that same thought process, and I've actually got a duplicate slide, so we are going to ease on past that one. So again, just giving you guys an actual look, but what I want to do now is just actually show you just some raw video of how it would actually look if I'm on that full sun, where that strobe is located, and you can kind of see. So again, I'm still thinking like an ambient light photographer. She's still on, a surface where it can act as a natural reflector. But what I wanted was I wanted to kind of like lower the exposure a little bit, right? I wanted it to look a little bit more, I guess, moody, if you will. But I've got that light to the side, I have it nice and feathered, and then this is what I got. So you see how I can bring it down a little bit, give it a little bit more moody, but we still know that, she's in bright full sun. I have that nice, beautiful blue sky, and all is well with the world. I'm often in the city, as Mike Corrado told you guys about, and I like to use the city in this way. I like to have something behind my subjects that has some sort of contrast, right? Now, if you can imagine, just looking at this image, how the light is coming from above. If they're surrounded by buildings, or if they're surrounded by trees or something, where does that ambient light have to come from? Above. So I like to use that to my advantage. That's how I'm getting that nice, beautiful rim light. So even same thing here. Now, I wasn't even in Chicago here. I was in Alabama. So it's not as if I have to always be in downtown Chicago. But what I looked for was like, like an overpass, like if you drive under, do you know what I mean? It's completely dark. I positioned her right in front, but she's standing in the sun. So I'm balancing the characteristics of that sun, use the strobe just to illuminate the face, but I'm still able to capture the integrity of the sun in the shot. Now I want to show you guys something here. Here, you guys are going to see me actually shooting into the sun. We were at about, I think we were at about 5 o'clock. So you see it there? So the sun's low, and I'm actually shooting into it. I wanted to get the sun in my shot. I wanted that integrity of what I was looking at. What I walk to, what I see, I want to capture it. And this is the beauty of Nikon, people, and that Nikon glass. See what I'm talking about? I can shoot right into that sun, I can expose my subject, and I can capture exactly what I see with my eyes instead of something being eliminated in the process of capturing the picture. Maybe sometimes using that strobe, it'll eliminate some of the light that you saw, and you wonder how come I'm not able to capture it. This is where we did it right here. So, creating the light that you want. I wanted to talk about this because I told you guys I'm often out at night, but sometimes I don't want to be outside at night. I would rather, be done with my photo sessions around 3 o'clock so I can go home, watch The Real Housewives if I want to, and I, can chill out. But if I want to get that look of nighttime, I have to change something, right? So what I have to do is I have to figure out how to use that strobe to make it look like it's nighttime. So let me show you this one here. You guys see how bright it is outside, correct? So I found it in kind of like an area of shade. If I capture this with ambient lighting, it would have looked just like this. So what I had to do, raise my my shutter speed up, turn that power just a little bit high so that I can overpower the ambient. And this is what I got. Looks like it's nighttime, right? Here's another one. You can kind of see where the sun is. You can see how bright it is. So just give you that video. You see we've got the light kind of illuminating from the the viaduct. But I wanted it to go a little darker, but I did still want to keep that integrity of what I was seeing with my eyes. And so there's my shot. And this is where I use created lighting to create that light that I want. Give you another example. Now here, still very bright. How dark do I want it? Well, can you guys see how you've got a little bit of the golden light from the sun on the buildings? I still wanted that. So again, I'm using my, what did I use? My Z8, Nikon Z8, and my 85mm 1.2. Show you guys, excuse me, what that looks like. Feathering my light. My husband is in all of my pictures, holding the light. There's my shot. Still keeping that integrity because of the light that is around them. That I did not want to go away. And there's just another, set from that shot. Now let me show you something else. Show you some movement. See this here? Stand in the front. See how it's nice and bright, right? Now, I did not want it to go so dark, but I wanted her to stand out a little bit. See what I'm getting there? So when that light starts to fall, I want to, I guess, what I see in terms of that city light, still capture it. So do you remember the very first slide that I showed you? This is a shot directly from that same set. This is actually a JPEG. I used a continuous light, so I'm not using a strobe. So it gave just a little pop of light, but that's what I'm getting right there. Now I'm gonna show you one more video. And you see the position of the light here, right? So that's how it is in that same shot. But I'm in Chicago, and we have pigeons everywhere. So I was like, you know what? Let's see if I can get the pigeons in the shot. And I tried to slow the footage down a little bit. So you guys see those pigeons? So thank goodness I was able to kind of capture it. And there's my shot. But I wanted to capture the light that I saw with my eyes. If I would have used a strobe there, I would have overpowered everything that was there. And that I did not want to do. This image right here is one of my favorite. And the reason is, as beautiful as my client is here, what I really wanted was I wanted the light behind her. You see that? And that's all just whatever is there. Being very careful in terms of how I use created light. I could have eliminated all of that. And that's one of the things that we have to kind of figure out when we're balancing, is when we start bringing in extra lighting. A lot of times those nighttime shots, they just look so dark. It's like dark, black back, you know what I mean, sky, and then you just have the bokeh. Well, there's a difference when you can keep that sky in there. When you can keep that sky, that to me elevates the image just a little bit more than just having the beautiful bokeh everywhere, although I do love it. Now I want to talk to you guys about something that is kind of near and dear to that I like to have in my work, and that's depth. And the way that I capture that depth in my image is by what I see before I capture the image, and then the equipment that I use. So everybody now knows what's my favorite lens, 85 millimeter. So using my 85 millimeter 1.2Z, I'm able to really get a lot of depth. So this image here is one that really illustrates that depth. Think of light in terms of layers. You've got the light on her, right? I'm using a strobe, but I made sure not to overpower the light that's on her nose. You see those natural highlights that come from the sun? I didn't want to eliminate any of that. Now look behind her on the buildings. Each building is lit by the sun in its own way. And that, to me, is what I like to call depth, because I'm layering all of that light. This one here is a really good illustrator. It illustrates directly what I'm talking about. Do you see how, look at the light on the buildings and the windows. From the direction of the sun, the window panes go dark. And all of that adds like that depth. And it almost looks like he's popping off of the picture. And that is everything to do with, A, the lens that I use, but more importantly, picking the right location, spots, and looking at where that light falls. And I'm going to show you just kind of different illustrations. This I captured in Denver, Colorado. So again, I don't have to be in my same city. The kit doesn't change. I can do it any place as long as I keep to the principles that I'm looking for. And as a matter of fact, I shot this at around 11 o'clock. So it was in November, so we were in the winter, but I'm still layering. You see how the light's falling on the trees? All of those things and that integrity of that ambient light is what I'm balancing with my strobe. Now taking it back to Chicago. Now do you see how the light's falling on the cars? All of that is adding that depth. The light that's on the viaducts that's behind her. You can see that before you snap the shutter. And when you see that before you snap the shutter, now you know how to set your exposure triangle. You know what light to use, and if you're going to overpower it or if you're not going to overpower it. Same thing. And it definitely gives you that bird's eye view of how that light is all falling. This one I shot in Louisville. So I was in Kentucky. So still having that same city vibe, you know, how do you guys, Louisville, that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, right? I don't want anybody, you know, throwing things at me because I didn't say it properly. So in Louisville, I'm still getting that light behind her. That blue sky, in my opinion, if it were all black, it would not look like the same shot. it would not look like the same shot. But those beautiful Nikon colors, I'm able to just marry it with the bokeh, the colors that my subject has on. All of it works so cohesively together, mostly because I'm able to see it. Even that green light that's on the building, that's like a light that was like shining, but I wanted to capture all of that. And this here just again shows you that depth earlier in the day. You see the light on those mirrored windows behind her. So that's what I'm saying. When you guys go out there and take pictures, I don't care where you are. If you just take a look at anything that can be some sort of like a reflective surface where a light is falling, all of this will come into your image. So you've got some more depth. You see it there. Blue sky, same thing. All that light that's falling right on those windows. And this last image is actually going to show you and really illustrate some really good depth. Do you see how all that light's falling? I'm still getting that sun. That's directly casting the light on those buildings, those mirrored windows. The sky is actually in the windows. I'm getting all of that. And that's what I want you guys to do. When you're thinking about balancing that light, definitely you want to, light is what makes a good image. You want to look at the light that's on the person, but never ever forget the light that is surrounding everyone. So my name is Audrey Woulard. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the show.
Do not go anywhere.
I'm not going
Ladies and gentlemen, Audrey Woulard.
Thank you.